Welcome. I'm Dale. Welcome to my talk where I explain how I built her. I'll be throwing ducks occasionally. I don't have a lot, but let's see how this goes. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Dale. I've been doing programming for 24 plus years. I'm currently a tech lead and senior software dev at a company called DLX. In my free time, I take things apart. Occasionally, they go back together. I'm currently most famous for pasting way too many duck photos on the internet and social media, and that's probably why most of you are here. I'm a regular speaker at B-Sides Cape Town and DevConf. I always describe myself as a jack of all trades, serial skill collector, and high-functioning hoarder, and my wife argues about that last part. This is Miss Duckworth. She's a rubber duck, AI companion, therapist, master debugger, and internet celebrity. She loves bathtubs, as long as she's not plugged in, strong tea, and she's now become a frequent conference speaker. In this talk, I'm going to use the marketing definition of AI, which includes anything about machine learning, large language models, neural networks, generative AI, anything with more than 10 if statements falls under this as well. Anything else that feels smart or intelligent falls under AI. And when in doubt, currently it's AI, no longer blockchain. I have a problem. So I believe constraints make problems interesting. This project has a lot of them. And a lot of the hard ones are self-imposed. My first constraint was time. I work on this. I don't work on ducks as a day job. So this is a few hours at night and weekends. I have to keep the values low. I have a deal with my wife. We have a budget that I can spend on my talks. Miss Duckworth is under that budget if you use some very creative accounting. So the way this works is simple. Every individual component in the duck is below the agreed upon amount. You're not allowed to post on social media how much this totals up. If my wife finds out, I won't be able to do these anymore, and I may have an accident. It had to be portable as a 9-kilogram duck can be. She had to come to Joburg. I live in Cape Town. Flying with a duck is interesting. Next up, there's no GPUs. I had to pay for a duck, so I'm broke, so there's no GPUs in this. I also couldn't fit a GPU into this duck. So this talk's going to be interesting. I'm doing AI without a GPU. And then it's offline, completely offline, completely self-controlled, contained. It doesn't require an internet connection, and the only reason I have a laptop Wi-Fi'd into my duck is so that I can show you the secrets. Also, we do not put AI on the internet, if the movies have taught me anything. So there's my constraints. This is going to be easy, right? Okay, so here goes the plan. This is how my duck works, or at least it was planned to work. So as you can see, there's a camera. The camera feeds into a vision system. The vision system feeds into duck control, which figures out how to build a sort of query out of that, and then we'll pass that through to the LLM. Along with that, there's a microphone, and if I speak to the duck, it will convert that into a prompt. It enriches the prompt, to use the big words, and then it feeds that into a language model. The output of all that goes back into duck control, and eventually goes through a text-to-speech engine and out to speaker. Along with that, it will move its beak as it talks, and as I'm sure those in the front row will see, it's got some eyes that are looking at you. How hard can it be? Yeah, so several months later, this happened. So here's a brief description of how it's built. Firstly is the 3D printed body. That's the bit you can see here, the yellow bit. All the organic parts, so that's all the yellow bits and the beak, were designed in a program called Blender. It's a 3D graphics program normally used for doing like games and movies and all that kind of stuff. I designed a duck in it because it's a lot easier to do sort of mesh type things that are more organic. For all the straight square bits, And the internal mechanical parts, that's all done in a program called Onshape. And yeah, I've gotten very, very good at Onshape and Blender because of building this duck. Next up, all the prints are just plain PLA filament, nothing fancy. And they're all printed on a Creality K1 3D printer. This talk wouldn't have been possible or finished in time if it wasn't for that printer. I did lots of 3D printing. Lots and lots and lots of 3D printing. So there's over 200 hours of 3D printing in this duck. That includes all the prototypes. Thankfully, not many failed, but boy, did I get some measurements wrong. There's over 5 kilograms of filament in the duck. Those of you who own a 3D printer will know what those cost. Remember, you're not allowed to post what that total will work out to be. Next up is the compute hardware. Remember, it's self-contained. So it's got 2 Raspberry Pi 5s, 8 gig models. Those are each fitted with NVMe breakouts with a 128 gig SSD in each of those. Along with that, there's a Raspberry Pi Zero. That's what's controlling the eyes, along with the fans. After that, there we go, is another Raspberry Pi 5. This one's a 4 gig, and it's fitted with Raspberry Pi's new AI kit and a camera. And then there's a little Raspberry Pi Pico microcontroller, and that does the beat control and controls the servos. So for those of you counting, that's 4 Raspberry Pis and a little Pico. But that's not all. So she's got a microphone. In this case, it's a 360-degree omnidirectional condenser microphone. It's cost about 150 Rand on Takealot. It seems to work okay. After that, there's 2 5-watt speakers. There's an 8-watt amplifier board along with an output so I can plug it into sound. Along with that, there's a USB sound card. And along with that, I have to power all this. My duck has a 100-watt power supply built in. And it's rather big. Along with that, there's hobby servos. There's a wireless router in my duck. There's also 2 round LCDs, and there's wires. Lots and lots of wires. And I crammed all of this in a duck. Yeah, you can see some of the internals of my duck. You can see my little fans. The board below the fans in front there, that's where the Pi Zero sits. In the middle there, you can see the sort of the router along with the cage around the Raspberry Pis. On the right, or on the right, left, whatever, you'll see all the cluster, although it's not really a cluster. As you can see here, you can see where the head is, that cool white thing that sort of stands up there with the Mickey Mouse ears on top. That is where the microphone's mounted. In past revisions, the microphone was lower down right next to the fan, which meant that all it picked up was wind noise. The software. Although I claim to be a software dev by day, I'm not a Python dev. Most of my code is C#, which means that my Python code looks like a C# developer wrote it. The duck is basically a collection of Python services and Docker containers, all running on Pis. There's no fancy load balancing. There's no fancy clustering or anything like that. And it's good old-fashioned HTTP requests between all of them. For voice recognition, I'm using a thing called Whisper. Whisper was developed by OpenAI, and you get different model sizes. I'm using the smallest model because I'm running it on a Raspberry Pi, which means that the voice recognition is terrible, if I'm being generous, but it works. And it's, I don't want to say real time, but good enough. I'm using this particular version of the Whisper library, which is some guy just approved all the PRs that were outstanding. So it's a little bit better. The voice recognition is rather interesting. It picks up things other than voice. Along with the voice recognition, there's the text-to-speech engine. I'm using something called Piper, and I've chosen a British-sounding voice because if you're going to build a rubber duck with a hat, it's got to be British. Along with that, I'm using Ollama. Now, Ollama is one of the technologies that started this whole journey. Ollama allows you to run a language model locally. And the cool thing is, Ollama released a Docker image. So you spin up the Docker image, and you just pick a model, load the model into Ollama, and you have a consistent API to talk to your model. It's also very easy to swap models, which means that I could trial lots and lots of LLMs. That meant that I could go through a long list. Now, these are some of the small ones that I use because I'm running on a Pi. I've now decided to stick to the small M, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but that particular one. I don't choose LLMs on accuracy or reliability or anything else. I'm choosing them on fun, which means that I wanted to hallucinate. I wanted to make stuff up. I don't want it to say, I don't know. Or as an AI, I'm not allowed to speculate on that. I wanted to. It's got to entertain people. It's got to have a conversation. One of the fun things about playing with LLMs is that I've grown to not trust them. But it's fun. Next up is the eyes. The eyes are what bring the duck to life. Those of you at the back probably won't be able to see it, but when you're walking out, take a glance at the duck. You'll see her eyes look at you, and they bring the duck to life. If you see her with her eyes switched off and the black, dark, soulless circles, it's kind of disappointing. The eyes are pretty cool. It's all done in Python. The way this works is I take the image, the yellow one, and I squash it to make it blink, and then I push it back up. That's why her eyes look a little bit funky, but it gives character rather than me spending hours and hours trying to work out how to do it properly. There's a pupil that moves around, and all of this is sort of vaguely based on what it can see. I say vaguely, we'll see later what I mean. This is me testing it. As you can see, I'm standing in front of the duck, and if you watch your eyes, you'll see it tracks me. And they're busy blinking, which is pretty cool. Then there's a dashboard. I'll show you the dashboard later. I'm not a web developer. No one in their right mind lets me near a UI, but I can vaguely do it. I believe in keeping things simple. So I've chosen this tech. What it is HTMX allows me to build UIs really, really, really simply. All it does is when you click a button, you say, do a post and replace this div with whatever comes back. The UI itself is built using Daisy UI, which sits on top of Tailwind or something, and that allows me to make it look pretty. It's great. You outsource all your prettiness to someone else, and then the rest is built on Python and Flask. The vision system. So this is the update. If you saw this talk or a version of this talk in the past, like at DevConf, you would have heard about this version. The original version, I'm now calling the DevConf version, used this library, an OpenCV, and this tracked faces, and then it would look at the face. And it worked, sort of. There were a few problems. Firstly, it only detected faces, which is kind of boring. And then it only detected bearded white men. That's a problem. And then finally, it couldn't detect ducks. And that is the single most important thing a duck should be able to detect. So I had a new plan. Let's train a model to recognize faces. Train it to recognize rubber ducks. How hard can it be? Found the ML people. Okay, so here it goes. Some of the problems, firstly, is that if you don't have GPUs, I own none, I have to do this in the cloud. Next, this gets complicated and expensive. I have no budget. I had to find lots of pictures of ducks and people. And when it was all done, it didn't work. It was terribly slow, and it was kind of buggy. And this was a problem because I promised people that I was going to do talks, and I had a broken duck. So we do the most important thing. We pivot. This got released just purely by accident. So for those of you who don't know, this is Raspberry Pi's AI kit, and it plugs into the PCI Express expansion port on a Raspberry Pi 5. What this does is it plugs one of these chips in. This is the Halo 8L. Depending on who you listen to, it's an AI accelerator or an NPU, neural processing unit, which does sound a bit weird. Otherwise, it's like, you know, the thing that makes the AI go faster. It does, sort of, but it only works for certain models in certain cases, and it's very, very precise, and it's a bit of a problem. It's only got 32 megs RAM. So if you're trying to run a model, it's got to be within those requirements, and it's got to run through Halo's fancy system, which means that a lot of models don't work. But there's one model that does work. YOLO. Now, YOLO is more than just a way of life. YOLO is you only look once. It's a pre-trained model that allows object detection. This is running on a Raspberry Pi 5, and it can do 60 frames a second on a Raspberry Pi 5. And the CPU usage while it's running is basically 0, which is pretty impressive. It can only identify about 80 objects. Thankfully, someone trained it to recognize these things. So I can get it to see my duck. It also can do other cool things. There's a version of YOLO that does pose detection. So at some point, I can make a dancing duck. That'd be cool. Okay, so we take YOLO and we plug it in. Next, I wanted to be able to actually see. So to do this, I'm using what they call multimodal LLM. If you don't know what that is, basically it's a model that understands more than just text. I'm using Moondream because it's small and it kind of works. It's not fast, but it's good enough. I'm running it on a Raspberry Pi. So all I do is I switch out my text LLM and I switch to this one when I wanted to interpret images, and then I switch back. There's a few problems with this. I'm running on a CPU. So as you can see there, all 4 cores are sitting at 100%. Also, note in the corner, the CPU temperature is sitting at 62 degrees. And that's with my fans running at full speed. In testing this, I discovered that if your duck reaches 90-something degrees, PLA gets a little bit soft. So now the vision system looks like this. What happens is you can ask it, what do you see? And then the camera takes the image. That image is fed into the Moondream LLM, and you get an explanation out. It takes about 50 to 60 seconds to figure that all out. While that's happening and constantly in the background, it's also feeding into YOLO. And YOLO is controlling the eyes. Along with that, if Miss Duckworth sees a duck, or something that vaguely looks like a duck, she'll greet the duck. And you'll also see that her eyes will change to little hearts. A lot of people ask me, what's the value in doing this? There's not really anything. I had fun. I built this because I wanted to, and I built this because I don't get to build ducks at work. I've learned to not trust AI. I still like it. It's still pretty cool. But wow, does it give some weird results? Traveling with giant ducks is interesting. I've gotten to book this duck under Rob's name already once or twice. That was fun. And then my wife is a saint for putting up with me. I don't know how I got this right. And then finally, everyone loves ducks. So I'm going to test this. I'm going to try a live demo. Please don't hold me or this escape responsible for what's about to happen. I'm just a guy who downloaded some code from the internet and shoved it into a duck. So let's try do this. Okay, so this is my duck board. Right now, it should be showing what it sees. I'm going to try and see if it will recognize the duck. Wait, it prefers yellow. Better get rid of the white ones. Cool. Okay, so we'll see if it finds. Okay. We should probably refresh this. This is how you know it's live. Ooh. Okay, so now a lot of you are probably going, it's not loading the image. So it turns out that writing MJPEG streamers is hard. Also, doing it reliably from a duck is hard. Okay. While that thinks, let's try a few other things. So first thing we'll do is we'll ask it, what is the capital of South Africa? Let's see what it comes back with. Are you going to say something?
The capital city of South Africa is Pretoria.
Ooh, that's not bad. I'm going to try a few other ones. Okay, so let's see if we can get the refresh working quick. I want the screen to work. Come, see ducks. Okay. Doesn't want to work the camera. Live demos are terrible, aren't they? Ah, there we go. Okay, so there you can see she's seeing things. If I wave my hand in front, it should see it, and it will tell there's a hand. And that's one of the cool things. YOLO will detect individual body parts. So if I wave a hand or a face or an ear, it can see me. Miss Duckworth prefers looking at ducks over people, and people over everything else. One of the weird quirks with her, though, is she really, really likes toothbrushes. I'm not sure what happened when they trained this model, but if you show it a lot of things, anything sort of longish, it sees a toothbrush. We'll see if it can now see a duck. Come on, see the ducky. No, it doesn't like. So this always happens. It gets stage fright. It must be all the bright lights. No, it doesn't want to see the duck. Okay. Well, later it will suddenly sprout forth. But like I say, it tracks people, it tracks faces. One of the other cool things I can now do is I can say something like this. So I don't know. Tell me what you see like a pirate. Let's see what happens. So this will take a few minutes while the pie...
I need to consult my inner duck on this one.
Okay, she's got to think. So we'll give her a few minutes and I'll chat on. So the models aren't fast. We're running them on CPUs. Raspberry Pis, while unbelievably powerful compared to the computers I grew up with, they're not that fast. And they're not that great at the AI stuff. But I can still do it. And it's running on a Pi. Which means that I could also run it on a Lambda or one of those things. I could run it on an ECS task or whatever GCP has, one of those Azure things. And that's one of the cool things, is I can run these models locally. My data doesn't have to leave my duck. I can tell it my deepest, darkest secrets, and she'll keep them and probably recite them back to my wife at some point. But that's the cool thing. Like I say, along with that, right now she's busy thinking, but she should still be able to see things. Let's see if we can get her to see the duck. No, but she can see hands and faces and that kind of thing. Unfortunately, cinema is a bit dark, so she won't see everything else. Surprised she hasn't come back yet with a result. But like I say, it's super simple. It does look fancy because I've stuck it in a 3D printed duck. Ooh, she didn't like that. Okay, she didn't come back with a cool response. That's disappointing. So one of the cool things is people keep telling me this, is that you must ask LLMs, how many R's in strawberry? Oh wait, sorry. You got to get the prompt right, otherwise she goes off the deep end. In the word strawberry. Now, I was gonna, well, yeah, that's probably a good thing if I got it wrong. So let's see what happens. Okay, that's an interesting one.
There are 10 letters in the word strawberry.
Okay. So I believe the other one is L. What's it? L's in Hamlet or something. But one of the problems is if you do this. So if you go, like, what is the capital of Spain? Now I've misspelled this on purpose. Let's see if she'll do what I hope she does. She's too smart today. So often what will happen is if you ask it a question.
The capital city of Spain is Madrid.
If you get the question wrong, she'll sprout forth and come up with her own version. So what we'll do is we'll try this again, but make it less look like capital. So we'll go, what is the capital of New Zealand? I'm only asking these ones because I vaguely know what the answers are. Wow. When you want it to go wrong, it doesn't want to go wrong.
The capital city of New Zealand is Wellington.
While this has been going, the voice recognition system should have been going as well. So as you can see there, this is why I don't demo with the voice recognition system running. I don't think I said many of those words. You guys have been pretty quiet. Yeah, it is interesting. It got pretty quiet, right? Wow. So one of the fun things about building an AI duck that listens to itself is that you have to remember to mute the voice recognition system when she's talking. If you don't, you end up with interesting problems. So when I first turned her on, I had her sitting on my desk. I said a few words, and I went to get coffee. When I came back into my room, the duck had been talking to itself. So it would speak, and the voice recognition would pick up some of the words, and then it would speak and answer itself, and it would go round and round in this fantastic loop. And by the time that I walked in, it was saying, "I'm sorry, as an AI model, I can't help you commit violence." I don't know what it was asking itself, but I got worried. Yeah, like I say, it's a lot of fun playing with these things. This model isn't doing too badly. The better, bigger models, if you've got a GPU, do pretty well. Wow, 5.25 cents. Okay, I'm going to try and tell me what you see again. Let's see if we can get it to work. Tell me what you see. Woo.
Right, let's get our thinking caps on.
Those of you wondering, there are a few shortcuts programmed in, so we don't have to wait in total silence while she thinks. Let's see if it works. For all I know, I plugged it into the internet and it's got a new model. So this is also why she's offline, is because I haven't pinned anything. So every time the Docker builds images rebuild, they fetch new versions of stuff, which makes it really, really interesting when you're going to go talk about it. Let's see. Okay, well, while she's busy thinking, I'll throw some more ducks out. I was told I have to throw at people. If you're asleep, please wait. Put up your hand if you're sleeping so I can hit you with a duck. Yeah, if you want more ducks, you can buy them for pretty cheap on Temu. I bought 200 for 140 Rand. I have a very, very forgiving wife. I can't reach the back of the cinema. I'm sorry. Wow. Let's see. Has she come up with a response yet? This is the worst part. If you're running them on software, they take a few minutes. I'm also trying to live demo this, which means it's not great. Please, please, please squeak these during everyone else's talk. Woo! There we go. Come on.
The image shows a large auditorium filled with people sitting in rows of chairs. The audience is seated on the right side, facing towards the front of the room where a stage can be seen. A spotlight is shining brightly from the left side of the room, illuminating the area and drawing attention to it. There are numerous chairs arranged throughout the auditorium, with some people sitting in them while others stand or sit on the floor. The audience appears engaged and focused as they watch a performance taking place on stage.
Ooh. Okay, so so that's my talk. If you want to follow me, follow the duck. I can be reached on most social media as Dale Nunns. I do have a website. I occasionally write things on there. It's mostly me taking things apart and trying to put them back together. If you have questions or anything, come find me. I'm around. I'm reasonably easy to find. I'm the guy wearing all the ducks. Otherwise, like I say, Miss Duckworth has been fun. I think she's enjoyed her time here. We'll see. Ooh. Just now I'm going to hit someone. I'm going to get into trouble. And that's it. I think we've got a few more minutes. I'll take questions if anyone wants to ask. Yes, you.
Could I give you a prompt?
Sure. This is going to be...
I promised to keep it PC. I had to iterate to get there.
Okay, so what do you want me to ask?
As a duck, I'm sure you have many very strong opinions about the value of chickens in this world.
Oh, dear. Okay. I can't spell. opinions in this world. So you must ask that.
You've missed out the important bit
Oh wait, how many strong opinions
about the value of chickens in this
about
world.
value of chickens? Gee, this is the worst part. Value of chickens in this world. It's going to come back, what, 3 cents or something, isn't it? Let's see what happens. Ooh.
I'm glad you asked. Chickens can be a valuable part of our ecosystem, providing eggs for food, feathers for clothing, and even helping to control pests like rodents. However, it's essential to consider their impact on the environment and other animals when deciding whether or not to keep them as pets.
I see she kept it PC. I love your project. Thank you.
Cool. Anyone else with questions? Cool.
So what was the total in the duck? The
What?
total cost of the duck?
I'm not allowed to say. You can add it up. Go look up what a Raspberry Pi cost. Just remember, this is prices from a year ago. They were lower. My wife is probably watching the live stream. Anyone else? Questions? Yep, cool.
Apologies if I missed this, but at the start, is she fully standalone in the sense that she also has a built-in speaker?
Yes.
And then have you considered making her battery powered, and how has that worked out?
Battery power is hard. She draws about 70 watts when fully cranked. I've tried. Last year, I won one of these little portable battery things that puts out 220. So I have plugged her in that and then makes her self-powered. Lots of people ask me, why doesn't she walk? Dude, I only had a year.
What's next for Mrs. Duckworth?
Well, this year she's been on tour, and I have plans. I'm trying to speak to the various people I know who run conferences, DevConf being one of them, because I want her to be able to do a talk on her own. And when I do that, I plan on running the completely uncensored models, just for fun. Why not? If Escape wants me back, let me know. If you'll let me do that, I'm cool with it. We can try. No. I would really, really like to also try and figure out a way to get a GPU into her. She may need to get a little bit bigger. I'm not sure. Maybe she'll come with a bathtub or something. See what happens. Anyone else? Well, there's a mic. Cool.
Have you considered, either in terms of the computer vision portion or the model that's doing the generation, actually just having an external GPU and communicating via whatever communication?
I have. The problem is, it's bad enough bringing a duck to a conference. You weren't at the tech check yesterday. I gave the AV guys a hard time because, the sound and plugging up a fully working, essentially group of computers gets hard. The idea of bringing yet more computers kind of scares me. So I would prefer to try and keep it all together. If someone would like to give me a laptop with a really powerful GPU, I'll gladly take it, and then we can do it that way. So you know how to contact me. Just let me know. I'll take 2 or 3, because then we can build a really powerful duck. Come on, please. Okay. Any other questions? I can't see much, so yes. Okay, cool.
Hi.
Yes.
I'd like to know what inspired this animal. And I want to know as well, what has been some of the highlights that you've had since you've been presenting on Miss Duckworth?
So what inspired this? It was accidental. It was me having fun. It started off, I rubber duck a lot, as in talking to a rubber duck when I'm programming or stuck. I find talking to people uses a different part of my brain, and that's how I solve problems. And what I found is that I can do the same thing with all the AI tools. I can ask it a question, and then I can say something, and then I can ask back, and you go backwards and forwards. And what happened was, I was like, okay, this is cool. God. Yeah, so that's how it got started. Is I was doing that, and I said to a friend, oh, "This is cool. I rubber duck with ChatGPT and stuff." And they said, "Wouldn't it be cool if it was a duck?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll put a Bluetooth speaker inside of a rubber duck." Cool. And then it was like, wait, maybe I can run it on its own, because I can run a model on a Raspberry Pi. And then I submitted a talk to DevConf. And my plan was, this was the backup talk. The talk that I was like, they won't accept it. It's got AI in it. Everyone's doing AI talks. And there was a different talk that I really wanted to give. And then they came back and said, we want your AI talk. We want the duck. And so I had to go and build the duck. I'm rather glad. My kids named it. They are currently missing Miss Duckworth way more than they're missing me. And it's been fun. The best part about speaking is I get to introduce Miss Duckworth to all of you. I get to make you laugh. Sometimes you laugh at me, sometimes with me. I'm okay with both. And it's fun. It's nice having a prop. Normally when you speak, you have slides, and it gets a bit boring and people fall asleep during your talks. This way, everyone's talking at the duck. And the plan is eventually is that I just will be the humble assistant who carries the duck around and plugs her in, and she does all the hard work. I hope one day. Anyone else? Cool. I've still got ducks. I'm sorry, I can't see.
So pending that your wife allows this, would you consider using the Jetson Nano for the AI portion of your duck?
Sure. You got my contact details. Send me one, please. I would love to. The problem is it just gets too expensive. Although I haven't compared it to how much I've spent on the duck, but it gets a bit expensive. And that's one of the biggest problems. I'm trying to do this on the cheap. And that's one of the fun things as well, is trying to get it to run on really low cost, relatively low powered hardware. All of us can have access to cloud stuff and have as many CPUs as we like, but it's kind of fun to make it run on low cost, low spec hardware. As low spec as a quad core 3 gigahertz machine actually is. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Cool. I have no idea when this thing ends. I assume they just pull me off stage. I still have ducks. There we go. Cool. If you have too many ducks, please share. I think I've run out of ducks. Cool. That's it. That's been me. Like I say, come find me, come chat. Cool. Ah.